Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back again talking about the best apps for fishermen, must-have apps for fishermen. I'm going to shock you right off the bat. There are not many. And here's what I mean. We fish. This is our full-time job. We now have quite a few fishing coaches there in the stable and 15 plus employees. We have full-time fishing guides like Captain Peter Deeks, who's got 7 or 8 world records on his boat. Captain Mark Johnson. We've had everyone from C. Richardson and Dylan Hubbard and Peter Miller and all these great names. And it's interesting as we fish with them, we realize a little theme. Oh, what is that little theme there, Justin? It's 2 words. They both start with S. And I'm not talking about Salt Strong. I'm talking about simplicity specialist.
Simplicity specialist.
Yes.
I don't have the hair to do it. Luke, you got to take over.
I got a new fresh.
I can't compete with that. That's some pretty good stuff there, Justin.
So here's what I mean by that. We're kind of shocked because we always ask that question. Hey, like, what are your must-have apps? Like, what are you doing in all your pre-trip planning? And for the most part, all these guys I just mentioned have like 2 to 3 apps max. They don't have a phone full of 50 different apps and everything you could imagine. It's pretty simple. And obviously you got tides and you got weather, including wind. And for the most case, that was kind of it. Now, there are some other apps that we're going to talk about just because there's some really unique things. I think we'll even kick it off with that. So we'll give you something pretty cool. This is something that Wyatt brought up because, Wyatt was in North Carolina, had no boat, didn't even have a kayak in the very beginning. So he was land-based, like his wading boots were his vehicle and his vessel. That's all he had. And then he moved to Texas. He has a kayak, just finally got a boat. But for the longest time, he was there with nothing but wading boots and a burning desire to catch redfish and speckled trout and some flounder. And he was telling us, we've mentioned in our community, like paddling.com, or there's the paddle app. If you actually want to find the app in the app store, paddling.com has got a great mobile version as well, which a lot of companies seem to be moving that way with this progressive app, including us. But that's a great place to find kayak launch points. But what's interesting about most, not all, but a big majority of these kayak launch points are actually places that you can fish from shore because they're usually an opening, or you can get out and wade. And so he combined that with, what is it called? OnX. That's the other app, OnX. And it's actually a hunting app. This is really cool. You should guys check this one out. And we're not sponsored by OnX. I don't even know who they were until Wyatt was telling me about it. And so Wyatt uses OnX it's for hunting to find out who owns the land. Basically, you're making sure that you're not trespassing on someone's property. And there's many places that you might come and there's no house on there and you don't know, man, is this someone's property? Am I going to get shot? And you can quickly go to that OnX app and it'll tell you if it's state owned, or if it's a park, if it's a deemed a rec lot, which happens a lot, which rec lots in most cases, if it's owned by the city or the county or the muni, you can go out there and use them all the heck you want. And so it's a really cool little way to find some launch points in your area. That's the paddling.com or the paddling app. And then this OnX is another really cool, unique way to make sure you're in a safe area. We're not going to get either arrested or shot or run off. So I thought that was a kind of a cool one. But we also want to pivot in the ones that super important because there are some you have to have, right? I mean, if you're not checking tides and you're into, I know there's some areas obviously in the state of Florida that it's not as critical, but you should still always be checking the tides for most trips, and certainly the weather. Luke, I know you've talked about that before on a prior podcast. You used to kind of just go back and check your old school. Luke was like overanalysis by paralysis analysis. The dude was taking all kinds of notes and he'd study that and he'd look at the tides and that was kind of it. Talk about that change. And now that everything's kind of gone digital, what are you doing now?
Yeah, I mean, now I just take the real-time trends on what's happening, the human intelligence, just stuff that I'm seeing in the community, and then just applying it to whatever day that I'm fishing. So I'll look at the wind speed, the wind direction. A big important thing is just the radar. So it's super important, especially if you're in lightning prone areas that I'm mostly fishing, is to know, which way those clouds are moving. They're not always moving the direction of the wind on the ground. And so super important to understand that and to know which way they're going. That way, if you see some clouds building off in a certain direction, if you really need to bail and seek safety, or if you're going to be totally fine. So, and so for that, like just the Weather Channel app has a really good radar. So I use that for many years now. I just use smart fishing tides. We have the radar in there. But whatever, just make sure you have some way to find the weather, and ideally where you can find it while on the water, just to have that extra, I guess, confidence to know that you're safe, or the awareness to know, hey, I have to bail before I get stuck out in this lightning storm. So I would say having a radar would be huge. So Weather Channel is a great one. Smart Fishing Tides, the Progressive app has it. And I'm sure there's other options as well.
Yeah, and so the smart fishing tides, that's one you're not going to find out there on the app store. That's something that's for our members only, as an insider member. And we've had members who told us, man, I didn't even know you guys had all this stuff there. I thought it was just tides. No, we got everything from tides. We got the weather, we got the wind direction, we have the live radar that we're pulling from NOAA. So we're paying to get this data from NOAA. And there's a NOAA app. I think Justin used that one a little bit. Right?
It's just as like a quick check. I don't know that it's a specific app, but I'll check NOAA and it'll show regionally. Like I can click an area on a map, click that general area, and it'll give me an update on wind direction, precipitation, temperature, and trends. Like if rain's going to happen before 10 a.m. or if the winds shift in the afternoon, kind of gives me that arc as well.
Do you guys use any app that gets like super detailed, like, hey, this storm is going to be hitting you in 12 minutes?
I mean, the Weather Channel app does that. You can hit the forecast and it'll give you the time layout. So it's technically does that. And the Smart Fishing Tides ones, it's a 2-hour window, so you can kind of do the math and see where it's going to be. I'm sure there's, I know Windy's a good one too. I don't know if it does radar or not.
I've used for radar, I like Weather Underground or Wonderground or whatever, however they hyphenate it or shorten it. Weather Underground's radar, I'll map that out, and usually gives me like an 1.5 to 2 hour forecast of what's going to be building and moving. That's great for me if I'm going to head an hour away from the house and I want to decide if I'm going to be pummeled with rain by the time I get there, or I want to go later. I kind of use that like as my radar reference.
And that's what Wyatt uses. Wyatt swears by it.
I got to point out, I've actually in spring and fall, when weather is very inconsistent and we don't really know when we're going to have storms come through, I have been burned by Weather Channel before. Very short story. After college, went fishing in Indian River in the fall months. Storm came through, and I was using Weather Channel to determine whether I should go. And it said 5 to 10 mile per hour out of the east and no chance of rain. Get out there, and it was 15 to 20, and I got poured on. And I was losing my mind. I wanted to talk to the head guy at Weather Channel and say, who do you think you are? So I've been apprehensive to check Weather Channel because I'm superstitious and a creature of habit.
Did you have a banana in your little lunch pail or something like that?
Someone probably snuck it into the kayak, probably, knowing how that goes. But yeah, I mean, they're all for the most part, Joe, they're all pretty similar to one another, right?
And because we built our app, they're all using the same data. It's not like there's 15 places you can get the data from. They're all bringing in the same data. It's a matter of how quickly they're deciphering that and basically refreshing it. And if they're using any other data to pull into it. Because we looked, we were out there when we were building Smart Fishing Tides. We looked at all the different data, and there's only a few places you can buy it from. It's not like there's 10 fast food places in the town. There's like one. You're basically getting data from 1 or 2 places. It's just a matter of how quickly you get it. So it's weird that how long ago? That was a while ago though.
It was 2011, 2012. It was still pretty fresh. And I may have only checked one site at the time thinking Weather Channel is like the source. I didn't cross-reference with a whole bunch of other stuff and form an average. At the time, I was like, Weather Channel will tell me. And it was wrong. But then again, everybody could have said 5 to 10 out of the east. Everyone I checked that day, I didn't check others.
Yeah, chances are that's the case. Yeah, because there's really not many sources for it, and a lot of different groups get the same data and display it differently, so it looks different. But just from as Joe said, do the research, like the tides, the weather forecast. There's only a handful of actual, or not even a handful. It's like 1 or 2 actual sources.
Yeah, take it up with Jim Cantori, dude. You message him?
No, I need him on speed dial, especially this time of the year. But I don't.
Yes. Cool. All right, so we'll just say that's a must-have, right? Some type, and it could be we got windy, Well, I guess that's more just for the wind. Does Windy do radar? I don't even remember. This is, and we're kind of poking fun at ourselves a little bit. We had a lot of people ask, this is why we're doing this podcast. And it's to us, it's so simple. Like Luke goes out, Luke's a simple guy. That's why we don't use that many lures. We keep it pretty simple. Luke doesn't have a fancy, fish finder unit. Everyone's like, oh man, what kind of electronics? Like, I don't know. I need to just learn how to turn the sucker on. We try to keep it really simple. And so do all these guides. I mean, that was like the big aha moment, is like, wow, everyone's just got they're just trying to simplify the data that they're getting and sticking with it. So did you look up Windy while I was talking, or you were doing something else?
No, I was actually pulling up the Wind Finder app.
Okay, cool.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, even though I'm a young millennial, or I'm a younger guy, I'm not as app savvy. I use a couple sources to check before I go fish, but the apps and the convenience of things, I think we can all be a little bit better at,
And so I go to Smart Fishing Tides. I mean, you kind of see everything there. And now sonar, I mean, you got Google, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I mean, everything's there that you technically need to succeed. Not to say there aren't some cool apps like that, Onyx and what's the other one? Swell Info. Is it Swell?
Yeah, Swell Info specifically for the swell height for beach fishing. If I'm going to launch my kayak off the beach, or I'm going to walk the beach, it gives me an idea: knee height, waist height, super flat, and that's pretty accurate. They must have buoys nearby that pick up like real-time data and give that.
Yeah, that's swell. What else? What are some other fish rules? We got to bring that one up. That's probably one of the better ones for fish identification, especially in our Facebook group with 80,000 members. There's a lot of newer anglers, which is awesome. We love it. And it kills me when someone puts a question and you can tell they've done no research. It'd be one thing if you actually tried and then you put it in there and then people hound them and harass them. Like we obviously don't put up with harassment and stuff, but it's tough to get it all because there's so many people in there. But that's a great way to, one, avoid having to rely on people giving you all kinds of fake things. Oh, it's snook candy. I mean, people put the most obnoxious answers in there, which is not very helpful. And it just saves you a lot of time. I mean, that the fish rules is pretty awesome for just going out there and identifying fish. And that applies to everyone, right? There's, including me, I've had times where like, what the heck is this thing? Especially if you're traveling and you're like, I don't even know what this is. It looks like a snapper, but I don't even know what the sucker is. So it's a great little app. Do you guys use it?
Never have.
Luke's never
have. I've worked with a lot of fish in multiple aquariums where I have to know what these things are.
What's your background, Justin? Tell us more.
My background. Wait, seriously? Yeah, my background's in fisheries and aquatic science. So some people, I mean, to the point where they're like, what kind of fish is that? I'm like, that's a sturgeon. They're like, what kind of sturgeon? It's an Accipenser rosenbergii. Like I'm to that level of knowing animals.
Nerd alert. That was not a setup either. That was awesome. Do another one. Give us another real funny one like that.
Oh man. I mean, people should know tarpon. Tarpon should come like right off the tongue. Megalops atlanticus. Say it with me. Megalops atlanticus.
Simplicity special. There we go. Oh my gosh. Dude, you're a hoot. Okay. So what else? We
got to say tides, right? I mean, I'd say weather most important, right? That's just actual safety, especially with the radar. But as far as actually knowing when the best time to fish is the tides is a big one. And there's a lot for that. Now I use Smart Fishing Tides, but before and I still use a little bit, it's called iTides, AYE Tides. The really cool thing about it, the reason why I still use it, is that it's the only tide, I'm sure there's others, but it's the only one that I found so far that actually has good predictor of current flow. So the actual tide is easy to forecast, right? Everybody has that. The water height and current flow doesn't always match. In many cases, like in passes and inlets, there's usually going to be a delay. And that's the only platform that I found that actually gets the delay pretty darn close. It's like for lobster diving down in the Keys, we do the bridges a lot. And it's a big deal to be there at the slack period, because otherwise you're wrestling with some serious current. And that's what I use down there for lobstering. So when I'm lobstering, iTides is on on the, on speed dial on my phone on the very front of it, and I'm using it all the time. Otherwise, for normal fishing, I just use Smart Fishing Tides because it has the same graphs, and it's the only thing it doesn't have is the current flow.
So it'll include like the Sebastian Inlet calculation to know when that's like.
That's the one it doesn't have. It has Boca Grande. It has a lot of the passes around here, but Sebastian is its own animal. Like, cause it's like a 2.5 hour delay. But then if the wind's different, it'll be like 3 hours or 2 hours. Like
it's like we're not even gonna guess at that one.
Yeah, that one's too sporadic, I think, for any.
That's still good. I didn't even know that existed. I've always tried to like ask locals what the calculation was for all these different places. So that's cool that like it's all in one central hub. I like that.
And they actually have it like charts for it too. Let me pull this thing up. It's pretty.
We did a whole report or a video. I think Tony did. It's been a while. It was before we created Smart Fishing Tides, but yeah, that's a great one. Tides. And then we obviously have to bring up Tides for Fishing. That's another great one. Our friends over there at Tides for Fishing have a great app, and I don't think they have any of the current predictions, though, do they? Like this?
I don't think so. I mean, nobody other than iTides that I've seen has it. So if anybody knows of any, let me know.
Yeah.
Comment.
When you're talking like current predictions, are you talking about the speed of water flow through an area?
The actual speed of the water flow.
I've used USGS, United States Geological Service, to be a nerdy again. Look at discharge at cubic feet per second to determine the speed. And at least for areas like Oliver Canal, where it's all wind driven and you don't really have an incoming and an outgoing tide, that's a reference that I'll use if I want to go fish Oliver at night and determine, okay, if it's positive or negative, is it coming from lagoon or the river? Is it plus or minus 3,000? After that, it's probably pretty fast and I can't do it out of a kayak. So it took a little bit of like practice back and forth to where the math made sense to me. But to get discharge in, I don't know, whatever unit they use to measure, that's helpful. You go and fish once or twice and you can link that up. That's more information. That's good.
Yeah. So here's a look at the this is the actual current. So like the slack is the line, right? The baseline, it means no current, and then incoming current, outgoing current, and then you can see just the speed of it throughout the day. Pretty again, it's not going to be perfect because it only is looking at the moon and the earth. Like they don't have like, as wind speed changes directions or speeds up, it'll impact a little bit, but it's pretty close.
It's super simple. Anyone can read that. What Justin's talking about, like, I'm like, man, I got to get a bigger calculator to cubic feet going through Oliver Canal.
It's tricky.
Wow. So that's cool. And I think another one that I want to bring up, we ended up chatting with two of the guys who've started as Fishing Points. Pretty cool. I mean, a lot of the same stuff that we've talked about, theirs is just very fluid. You do have to appreciate when someone's taking the time with just the kind of the user experience and how well everything flows. Great one. And they do some cool forecasting. This is Fishing Points, the app. I guess they're kind of tying in some of the species stuff too, which I thought was interesting, because that was new last time I got in there, where now they're doing the fish identification and giving a few little tips on it. I gave them some feedback. It's like, you guys need to talk about some Slam Shady up in here, because they're even saying, hey, here's some different baits and stuff to catch certain fish with. But I thought that was pretty good. They're doing a good job on that. What else do you guys like? What are some other unique ones?
I'd just say, I mean, for navigation, so for me, it's, am I going to be safe for the radar? Okay, what time to fish? Look at the tides. And then, and when I'm on the water, am I in the right spot, right? Because I just, one of my favorite things to do is explore new areas. I try to go out at least once a week to someplace I've never been before and just try to prove that the trends are working everywhere. And sometimes it's hard to remember, from looking on the online map, it's hard to figure out exactly where you are. So I just use the map that comes with the iPhone, like just this one map, and I just put it on the satellite view, and I can literally see, right, like all the details. I can see, like where I am at a certain time, and then I can see that I can zoom in and see if the oyster bar that I'm targeting is 100 feet that way or 50 feet that way. Super helpful.
This is
and
just
even for
maps.
navigating.
So this is just maps on your iPhone.
It's just the free, really the one that came with it.
Yep.
And but again, there's a lot that have the same thing. What you want is a map that has the satellite imagery, and also has a little pin mark for where you are, a little dot for where you are, even for navigating at night or in fog. It is extremely helpful. All right, if you don't have the really fancy GPS that plots everything, you can just literally pull out your phone, and I've used it for navigation hundreds of times, just to zoom in on a flat where there's one little channel, and I can basically follow the blue dot and just go right up that channel, and it's incredibly effective, and it's free, right? It comes with
I
the
will
phone.
have to say, so on this navigation, obviously we got to throw in Navionics. That's a great one. We've done some stuff with them in the past, had them on a podcast. That's an awesome app, and obviously they have a like all these things, there's a free and a paid version, if you will, and they do a great job. Old Navionics, and also even for freshwater. I was talking with our friend Matt, and he's like, yeah, I've been using that even for some of the lakes here in Central Florida. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Whereas Google Earth, well, I see the other one we probably need to talk about, and in the when you're talking about the free maps, like you can't really see much, when you start talking about lakes. It's like a little bit darker water, but in Florida it's been great. So what do you guys think? Google Earth? I know there's some pros and cons.
I've still never used that on the phone, because that's its own app. Google Earth is different than the Google Maps.
Correct.
Google Earth is great on desktop because you can see historical pictures. I've never done the mobile one. Justin, have you done that?
No, I haven't. I mean, I used Google Earth a lot when I was doing more tournaments and I was fishing areas that I don't fish a lot, and I want to find that historical to go back and say this area had a grass flat, it doesn't anymore, or this area had an oyster bar but it looks like it's gone. Fisher kind of programmed to go back to a lot of the same spots, and that can be a great like reference tool in pre-planning. But like in the moment, no, I mean, it is a little complicated. I don't even know. Yeah, so I don't know if you can get to Google Earth from your phone. And just the satellite map is like okay in a pinch for general navigation, but it doesn't provide the details that I would really want, before getting on the water.
Joe, Google Earth.
I'm sure they have a mobile version. I've just never used it, because they're, again, just the map thing that comes, at least I don't know if it's the same on Android, but the one that comes on iPhones is shockingly good. The imagery is on point. It's actually more clear in many cases than the Google stuff.
That's all I use. Yeah, so there's a Google Earth app and the Google Street View app separately, and then just Google Maps, which is what we're talking about. So that's all I use, because mine's so simple and people don't believe me. Like, look through all my apps. Like I mean, I've got some goofy ones in here, but I have the iTides. I got Smart, Salt Strong, which is our community, and the Smart Fishing Tides. I got the fishing points, and that's it. The rest is the radar and weather.
Yeah. So like for Google, for regular Google Maps, I mean, I'm already always preset on satellite and can zoom around.
Yep.
I think it's accurate for most areas by within a year. I think it's like the data is within a year or so. Obviously pre-planning historical Google Earth is a little bit different, but yeah, for anything, for just a general pre-plan or when I'm on the water, that's my go-to. That's quick.
Yep. And it's just getting better and better. You should see how much money they're putting into all the Google Earth and the satellites, checking the stuff. And now they have those people going down different beaches. We did a podcast on this. I don't know if you saw that one, Justin, where now you can actually drop the little dude. It used to be just street views where you could drop the little guy on and look at the street and look around. Now you can go to beaches. Now, like, you can go to Sebastian and walk the entire beach. You can walk up into the jetty and stuff. Like, it's wild. The play, and you can see the guy's shadow, which is really cool. So you can actually see the guy. He's got like a camera on his head, and he's just walking around with his little hiking sticks, and they're just documenting the whole thing. It's crazy.
They're starting to do waterways too, where you can see it's on the top of somebody's T top, and they're just going down the waterways and doing that imagery.
That's cool.
And this could be the best tip of the entire thing. If you own a boat, you can apply for this, and if you get selected, you can write the boat off, because now you're working for Google doing some cool stuff. Just throwing it out there. I'm not a tax attorney. Not giving you tax advice. But doggone, that's kind of cool, right? Man, if
That's really cool.
sitting there
Yeah.
retired, you got nothing else to do. You got a boat, strap a little camera up on top, and just cruise the waterways, get paid for it. Woo. So what else?
I mean,
What are we
I'll
missing?
just say, I mean, the reason why I don't use a lot of apps now is because, again, that Smart Fishing Tide has everything. And the fact that it's, we call it a progressive web app, is that I actually, on my phone, on my home screen, I made a home screen for all of the tide stations that I use most often. So unlike a normal app where you have one icon that you tap on, then you have to filter through and find whatever station you're looking for. I just have one for here in St. Pete. I have one for down in Placida that I go to a lot, and so it's always just one tap away. And it has everything. It has all the forecasts for the next 14 days. We have a strike score based on the tides, weather, and all that stuff. It has the hourly tide chart along with the wind speed, wind direction, precipitation, and then you scroll down and it has the again, this is another thing. This is the feeding level throughout the day. Again, based on the recent trends, based on the pressure changes, all that fun stuff. And then it has different links for seeing the radar, for seeing the sonar, right, the underwater view, all in one spot. So for that reason, I literally just use that maps thing just to see where I am with that little blue dot, and then this, and it's been super convenient.
And if you guys haven't heard of Progressive app, you will, and that means essentially taking an app and just making it crazy mobile friendly where you never know, and you can still save it to your phone. So even Google Hangouts, if you guys remember Google Hangouts, it's a very popular way to communicate, to have chats, to have, group kind of Zoom like calls. They now just took away their app. Used to be an app in the App Store, and it's only Progressive now. So Google itself is moving some of their stuff towards this Progressive app. So it is happening. It's honestly a better user experience, because then, like you said, you don't have to download an app and then like, oh man, I can't see it on desktop or my laptop, because even though most of us live on our phones, most of us also still have a laptop or a desktop or a tablet. And in some cases, especially if it's on a desktop, you're not going to have the ability to get apps, or at least the same type of version. So I think you'll see more and more companies doing this Progressive app. Now there's some other ones I know you guys will probably, and I'm hoping you do, because this is not like a sermon. This is, hey, an open discussion. We didn't know if it was going to record. Like, let's just get on a call and talk about what we like the app. So hey, look, might as well record this for everyone to hear and to get your feedback. So we'd love for you to leave us a comment. I know there's some communities, there's some social stuff, obviously. Facebook, you could kind of say that is, because there's like, we have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, saltwater fishing group in there, called the Salt Strong, fishing group inside of Facebook, which is clearly on an app. You have a lot of what's the other one, Fish Brain and some things like that. I used to have that deleted, all those, just because, we have, now a community with 25,000 people, and it's cool to have a group sometimes that has whatever Fish Brain has, 13 million people, but like half of them are abroad. And I mean, the majority of them are not in inshore saltwater fishing. So at least for us to have a specialist and a community and a platform where we're all kind of speaking the same language, and also, talking about the same type of species and looking for the same kind of tactics, I like it a whole lot more, which is where I'm spending my time. And same with obviously everyone on our team and most of our 25,000 plus members. So that's all at the insider community. Community.saltstrong.com, and that's also where the Smart Fishing Tides Progressive app exists. It's all there in just one place. You don't have to relog in. It's once you're in for good. It's all there on your phone. So but I know there's some other ones, so we'd love to hear from you. Put your favorite apps down, like even the stuff I love, this like Onyx and kind of unique things like that. I personally am not downloaded it. I went and looked at it in the App Store, and I'm trying to keep my apps down to a minimum. I don't need a bunch of apps clogging up my stuff and everybody tracking my stuff. But it is neat. It is cool to find like, things like that where you can find new places to fish, make sure you're not trespassing. I like the paddling.com. That's a cool site. And obviously we're not sponsored or teamed up with any of these groups. We're just sharing what we like. Same with iTides. You think they would have reached out to us, because that one time Tony did that post a while back and we sent them a ton of traffic. And they're still doing good. They just keep it simple. It's super easy to read. And that's kind of the whole theme of this. Simplicity, specialist. We need to get the jingle, like the whole song going.
That's all I'm thinking about right now is like, I can't wait to like set up like a DJ. Just we need to make it a song. Need to make it a music video.
If you guys have any thoughts on that, if anyone has any unique skills in songwriting, we'd love a simplicity specialist song tied into a fishing beat. So what else? Anything else we're missing, guys? Any other cool apps, gizmos, wizardry?
Yeah, I think so. If anybody knows any other groups that have the current flow forecast, that'd be sick. That's the only thing that Smart Fishing Ties is missing, and I would love to be able to add that in there. So, any input on that would be huge.
That's going. Otherwise, definitely head over. We made a mistake last time and got called out. So thank you for whoever called us out. We said, hey, we don't really get to look at all the YouTube comments because we get so many. And I mean, we put our attention on our insider members, and all that stuff exists on our site and our community. So we read all the comments and reply to the comments for the best of our ability at saltshore.com, which is our blog. And so I said, hey, just go over to the blog. And some guy said, what's a blog? It's just it's a fancy way of saying our website under the fishing tips section. So I apologize. Should have been more clear. A blog in our case is essentially where we're putting our fishing tips on our website, which is saltshore.com. And at the top, depending on if you're on mobile or if you're on desktop, you'll see the little drop down, or you'll see an actual menu that says fishing tips. And in that section is where you'll see this actual post. You might be there watching it right now. And at the very bottom, you'll see a place to leave comments, and that does come right to us. And we usually try to do our best to get back to you that week. And obviously, if you remember, it tells if you're a member or not. We try to get back to this first, and then ultimately get in the insider community. That's where we're spending, hours of our time every day in there, answering questions, helping people out, coaching, sharing where we're fishing, sharing all kinds of new tips and tactics and shortcuts. And it's pretty stinking awesome, and it's getting even better. We got some really cool stuff coming for really the end of the year this year. So just one more reason to come join us at the Insider Club. That is where we are helping you save time and save money, tackle discounts, spots, trends, all kinds of on the water fishing reports, in a really, really amazing community. So come join us there. That's all at saltstrong.com. For you current members, thank you guys so much. You are the backbone, the foundation of the company, and we appreciate you big time. And once again, I'm looking forward to seeing what apps we miss, because I'm sure there's a laundry list of them that you guys like. But at the same point, I wouldn't get too caught up on it, because we fish with a lot of really, really great fishermen, much better than us. And none of them seem to be sitting there looking at 15 different apps. It's like one or two. They're keeping it pretty doggone simple. So don't get too carried away. Guys, anything else?
I covered it.
Ending it on a simplicity specialist. Justin, this is your chance.
Simplicity specialist. Simplicity specialist.
We out. Memer.